Hello and welcome back to the channel. You get one of them days, it's been one of them days. I just tried to quickly review this guy, and just as I got onto the last bit, I had a bit of a technical faux pas, and it was a real pain when that happened. So now I'm having to reshoot the thing. So let's hope we can get through this, and I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible because I've been posing out the Predator section, and looked back on the channel of when I have reviewed the Predators, and I didn't go into enough about the accessories and the extra hands they came with. So this is what this is mainly about, not so much the posing, but the actual other things that I failed to touch on in those reviews. So I'll come in close on him, and let's hope there are no hiccups. And I'm posing him with the gesture hands, as you can see there. Now this individual is the Neca release of the Alpha Predator, and on the box it actually says it was their 100th figure release, but I got this as a Christmas present to myself last year. Now this guy was originally known as the Hishkatan, and they were enslaved by a race called the Amenge, who bred them for slave labor, and they also bred a warrior class so that they could see them fighting each other for entertainment purposes. So what they did eventually, their numbers grew and they overthrew their slave masters, and he was the guy that led that rebellion, and he was called the first hunter. Now from the mortal remains of their slave masters, they made their body armor, their slashing weapons, and that piece down there is one of them, but I took it off because you can do that, so I could show more of that gesture hand there. But he's a good figure. He's bulky, but he's very poseable. Now I'm going to turn this figure around and show you what he looks like at the back, and there's a very good reason for that. And I'm also going to be posing him out with his helmet, so you'll get two kinds of poses, one with the helmet and one without. So we're looking at the back of the figure obviously, and he's got longer dreads compared to your standard Predator. But what I decided to do was I posed one of the weapons there on the horns, just hook that thing in. There's that weapon there, and I've done the same on the other side for the other weapon, which is partly obscured by the helmet, which was my idea. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that really, but it was just my way of giving him a different look. And there you can see, I presume, is probably the skin or the fur of the Amenge, and then on the boot section I think that's like a spinal column of the Amenge. So I'm going to turn them around and change out those hands, kind of like that guy. Yeah, change out the hands and see what else we can come up with. So I've got the fighting fists in. Obviously I've taken that helmet off the rear of the figure, and I've replaced the gauntlet back on there. And that's a tooth gauntlet, I call it. I don't know the technical name. And on the other side, I think that's more like a tooth and claw gauntlet. But yeah, that's his fighting fists. That's him with the helmet. And I'll just show him unmasked. and it's a personal choice whether you like him with the mask or not. But I'm just going to take that off now. Same pose, but without the helmet. And this predator, unlike the other ones, he has red eyes, it appears. But mind you, my jungle predator, he had sort of white eyes, whereas the others seem to have yellow. But what I'm going to do now is change out those fighting fists, and I'll put in his gripping hands. So there we go. He's got the gripping hands, obviously, so he can hold those weapons. And that one is called, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, the Shuriken. I just call it a fighting star. Bit like the weapons discs that the predators eventually go on to use on in the future. And that weapon there, that kind of reminds me of what they call, I think it's the name is called the farmer's scythe. You know, like the sort of thing you sort of cut wheat with, but obviously you're not going to be cutting wheat with that. But I'm just going to quickly put the helmet on, just to show you that dynamic. So there's the helmet. Now, I have all the Predator films in my DVD collection, and in the first Predator film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, I went on to the special features, and you probably know this already anyway. Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally going to do the role, but he stepped aside, but that's not my point. Yeah, the original concept of the Predator looked like this, but at the last minute before they were due to shoot the film, they decided not to do it and give us a different look, which is of course the iconic Predator helmet we see today. So I think it's a nice touch that they introduced this figure with this helmet. So let's give him the other weapons that are attached to the back of the figure. So I've decided just to show him with this one first. Not bad. I'm moving very quickly because if I have another technical issue, I'm just going to abandon it and come back to it in a couple of days. Okay. And I'll show you them with both weapons together. So he's got both weapons now that were on the back of the figure, and I've taken the gauntlet off so you can see a bit more about, or a bit more of the gauntlet there. Nice work. And a bit more of that, which is obviously bone and tooth. But yeah, I mean, what I'm going to do, as I said probably earlier or on the last review, I'm going to get back Feral Predator, because he's got a few different hands, which I didn't touch on in the review that I did on him in the past. And he's got different change outs with his jaw section, the mandibles. But what I'll do now is I'll basically put that weapon there back on to that section there, and I'll put the helmet on and finish this review. And let's hope I don't have a technical issue, because I'll go ape. So there he is, with the helmet obviously, holding both of those weapons. And what I'll do, because I did it on the last two reviews of Predators, I'm going to finish with him without the helmet. But at the end of the day, I covered all the bases with this guy, and if there isn't any kind of hiccups, I won't have to deal with this guy for a long time. Apart from the outside noises in my house, outside my house, this thing is come across well. So there he is, alpha predator, known as the first hunter. So I'm going to take that helmet off, attach it to the rear of the figure, and end the review. Good to pose, very articulate, pretty fiddly, especially on the helmet section and with the gauntlet section, but it's well worth it because he's got a great look. So let's take that helmet off and wind things down. So your final pose is done. Thank God for that. Coming in close. One more time. Nice head sculpt. Give you a side profile there to show you where that helmet is. And I know it's not supposed to be there like that, but that's my kind of take on Alpha Predator. And I'm going to go on to the other side just to show you that. And I was on the internet earlier and I did happen to clock Wolf Predator and Scar Predator. But apparently Neca are going to release it again, those two figures, and give us the head sculpt, because I think the way they sold it, they were just either selling it with him without the helmet, that's both these Predators I'm talking about now, or you could buy those Predators with just the helmet. You didn't get both, which I thought was silly. Maybe they're milking it for money, but at the end of the day, if they do that, I will pick them up if I can. But Predators, when I started collecting them, were about £39. My cheapest one was 25, but I suspect looking at the prices now, they're going to be around 50, which is the price of the new release of the Badlands figure, Yucha deck. But on that note, I'm going to say thanks for watching the review, and I'll see you next time. And probably in the next couple of days, I will bring out Feral Predator and touch on some of the accessories that I didn't cover in my last review of him. That's a nice shot. So thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you again soon.